I don't know who needs to hear this right now, but if you're going through a difficult time in your relationship, or your relationship has crumbled, or something really bad has happened in the past between you and some romantic interest over and over again, and maybe a lot of the time you feel frustrated, you feel angry, you feel irritated, you feel hopeless, you don't feel like there's really going to be any connection again, you feel like that you're going nowhere, maybe you're going in circles. I want to give you a little transformation that can help you overcome some of these beat up feelings inside of yourself, and maybe even put you on a better trajectory than from where you are now. So let's say you have gone through a breakup, or have you gone through some very tragic experience with a romantic interest and it fell flat, really bad even. What do you do if you want to rekindle things, if you have the capacity to do so? Now, if you're not prevented from communicating with someone whom you are romantically interested in, and they may be on good terms with you at some point, you can reach out to them and let them know that you either forgive them for something that has happened, or you can tell them that they were right and that you're going to own up to your mistakes. You're going to basically assume the form of accountability with no expectation whatsoever of what the other person needs or should be doing, because that is a realm that you cannot control. The only realm you can control is your own internal locus. Unless you are able to transcend this and take control of the mental block in which people associate control, then you have no other means to control the other person. You only have control over yourself. And this is something that the other person cannot necessarily object to. You can show up and do your best, be your best. You can become better. You can learn how to communicate better. You should actually learn how to understand where the other person is coming from. You should learn to put yourself in their shoes. You should learn to figure out how their mind works, what thought processes go through their mind, and you should be able to sit yourself in their world and come to terms with that even, and see maybe that you were a prick. Assuming that you are accountable and you are more interested in working on yourself than trying to change the other person. Essentially, at the end of the day, if you can change yourself and you do change and you keep on growing, it will induce some type of response from the other person as to whether they are interested in changing or not. As long as you're not trying to force your way onto the other person, right? Just generally saying, they might start showing some interest in you, especially if you're kind of like just doing this for yourself and you're very happy with yourself. However, this does need to be in the self-interest of that person. So whether you reach out and forgive them, or you reach out and you let them know that you were wrong and they were right, and that you're going to do better, and you actually show up and prove these changes, because they're not going to believe you for some time, and they may even be extremely mean towards you for some time as well, maybe even years. In any case, you reaching out to them and talking to them, they're not going to be interested unless it benefits their self-interest. Now, here's the thing about why the relationship was crumbling in the first place, why the relationship has had some very havocing moments. The whole reason the relationship went south side is because that person's self-interest was not being fulfilled. And if you were in the relationship really just trying to benefit your own self-interest, or you thought that your self-interest was the interest of the other person, which it a lot of the time probably isn't, you are actually neglecting the other person's self-interest. You become very judgmental. You don't go out a lot. You judge your partner and nitpick at the tiny little things. And neglecting that person's self-interest is actually painful. Was it really in their self-interest to put up with that type of behavior over time? If that was the best that you could do, literally that's the best you could bring them to the table, your nitpicking, your complaining, your shortcomings never being addressed, then a lot of the time it is no wonder that the person wants to leave. And sure, they probably have their own shortcomings too, but is that your problem? Your problem actually should be on your shoulders, that you need to address those things. And this is where accountability comes in hand, because even for me, it's like, accountability, what the hell even is that? It's like, to even wrap your head around that might take you some time. The best mindset, to be honest, quick fix here, is to assume the form of radical accountability. Assume the form that you are responsible for every single thing that happens to you, even if it isn't your fault. Literally everything. You had a part to play in it. And if you can assume the form of someone who's ultra responsible, ultra accountable, you will literally focus on everything that you did to contribute to the outcome. This is something that has blown my mind recently, in that something called a reason is actually another word for a cause. And there's always a reason for someone doing something. You usually have reasons for why you carry out your doings. And your partner also has reasons for carrying out their doings. And these reasons are actually causes. There is a root source or cause as to where this action or doing came from. This could be human nature, psychological factors. Now, if your partner decided to leave you or to treat you harshly, if we are accountable, we could reflect on where they're coming from, what we did to contribute to their behavior, figure out why they're not coming towards us if they're not doing that yet. One type of decision about, like pulling away, not being interested, getting away, right? There is something called a passive decision, a passive choice, where you don't even realize you're making a decision a lot of the time. It's like you're spending all your money on food and trinkets throughout the week, and by the end of the week, you've got no money left, right? But you still made conscious choices throughout the week that led up to that moment where you've got nothing by the end of the week. All those little micro choices led up to this macro result. And that's all passive. And these passive attitudes, choices that you made in the past led up to the big finale of the relationship falling down. And then you have slingshot choices, slingshot rebound type choices, where sometimes you might say no, and then yes, because you keep on thinking about it. It's like a slingshot, more tension, bam. And this is why your partner sometimes might even lash out at you as well. There's all these little tiny things getting under their skin, maybe even you, little tiny things getting under your skin, and then eventually it just collapses, it caves. And a lot of the time, the pain of having to put up with even the tiniest things, eventually it becomes overwhelming, eventually it becomes too much. And that pain, all of a sudden, they move away from that pain. People run away from pain, just like you run away from pain. And then it would really be no wonder why they leave. It would be really no wonder why they don't talk. Even if they're on really good terms with you and they don't really reach out much. What if, for example, you've never been in contact for a long time, months? You might only send a text message once a month, every once in a blue moon. And you could sit there complaining and whining, why don't they communicate with me? Why don't they say anything? They're seeing other people. But then if you just have a much more positive assumption about the person and say, well, the reason they're not reaching out to me is actually because they have big feelings towards me, is a much better approach than being nitpicky and upset out of thin air, out of nothing, out of a thought that was only in your head and not even in their end. That is it for this video episode. I was really kind of brute forcing some little tidbits in there of knowledge and experience that I've hope will help you out on your journey of recovery and some type of happiness in the end.